the house for hours, you're comfortable walking around with all that stanky body odor that's been building up on you all day. What's even crazier is that some of you are applying deodorant on top of that odor, which is honestly probably making it worse. Let me tell you what I do. It's a little hygiene hack. My friend told me about these cloths from Get Dirty. They were originally formulated for firefighters to remove carcinogens off their skin, which means these wipes don't play games like other wipes on the market. They are antibacterial and actually lift and remove sweat, dirt, and odors, making these the one and only total refresh, shower on the go solution. After you use these, your skin will have a soapy, clean smell. You will instantly feel...
All right. Welcome to Kingdom Lum Small Town Underground. As we get started here, I wanted to play that video for you. Just give me just 1 second to get started here so that I need to share this out just to a couple of groups. You guys can help me share it out. I'm only going to be sharing it out to 2 or 3 places tonight. Maybe 4 or 5. I'll be quick here, just a second. So we'll get started. We got a bunch of ground to cover. All right, that's good enough. One more. There we go. Okay, welcome to the show, the Wednesday night show this evening. Thank you for joining us. I just got everything set up. That video that I just played was totally done by AI. Pause that for a second. So if you just saw it, it was completely AI generated. So just wanted to throw that out there. That's some of the latest in the news about artificial intelligence and what they are able to do with some of this stuff. So I thought it was pretty crazy. I'll try to post a link to this video after the live stream's over. I just kind of wanted to open it with the show. I got a lot of ground to cover tonight. So we do have a special guest that's going to be joining us about 15 minutes after. So in just a little bit, we're going to talk about the censure that happened in Whitfield County with Casey Carpenter. Whitfield County, they passed a couple of resolutions. So we're going to get in and dig into it just a little bit coming up here. So while I get everything rolling, I just want to go ahead real quick and hit a couple things. For starters, let me pull my computer up here where you guys can see that. Nick Ware was supposed to be on with me on Monday, and it wasn't able to happen. It was my fault, and so we've got him rescheduled for this Friday at 8 o'clock. So we'll do our candidate Mondays. We'll continue to do everything as scheduled, but we're going to move Nick Ware to actually, it's Wednesday night for Friday night at 8 o'clock. So I will go ahead and be posting that up. But the rest of the everything else is still standing, and I have not forgotten about anybody else. I'll repost it as I get more people scheduled. We did have a bunch of people that are wanting to be on here, so I think that's great. We'll get that out there to people. But Nick Ware is going to be on the show at 8 p.m. on Friday. So you can let everybody know, anybody that's interested in watching, he's going to be running for the commissioner spot in Catoosa County. We have events coming up in Saturday, March the 30th, and it's going to be the civil safety training that's going on in Chattooga County. I will repost a link to that as well so that everybody can get out. I know there's going to be a lot of people that's going to be showing up there, so if you haven't already made plans to attend, you can message me or I'll hit you up with a flyer so that you can make plans to be there. And I'm going to go ahead and post these real quick. These are the events that are coming up. We have Saturday, April the 13th. It's going to be a meet and greet fundraiser for Blake Ellsbury. That's going to be West Washington Street, Somerville, Georgia. So there's going to be a couple of hours there. You're going to be able to meet the commissioner, and there'll be some sign waving, some food, some dessert, stuff like that. It's going to be really, really good. And then we're going to be going into this a lot going into April. The President's Dinner honoring Donald J. Trump and State of the State fundraiser. That's going to be in Douglasville. There's a lot of people that is very interested in that. And we've got tickets on sale. We got all kinds of good stuff. And we're going to be going in much, much more in the near future about that, gearing up to these events. So I will be there at all 3 of those events. I will be at the Saturday event as well. So I hope you make plans to come, and I will post another flyer on here so that you can share it around. So let's see here. The event in Douglasville, I know a lot of people have questions about it. I'm going to answer all that stuff through the event. You can go to the Eventbrite. You can go to the event link and link up with it. And we will get all the information out that we can get to you. So let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and get ready. So let me just give you a little background on this real quick. What we're going to start with early tonight. This is from WDEF.com. Whitfield County GOP censures representative. So I'm going to play this video here in just a second, and we are going to talk to Mr. Rod Miller, who's the second vice chair of the Whitfield County GOP, and he's just going to give us a little insight to this censoring and the process and give us a little bit more information. So I also have a copy of, we can read that real quick. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Let's see. Right over here, and let me go into, let's see, right here. So this is the censoring. There's a letter there, and as you can see, it says resolution condemning State Representative Casey Carpenter's vote against the Georgia Criminal Alien Track and Report Act, HB 1105. So basically, this is just a resolution that they passed, and then there's a lot of comments, a lot of talk on this. Not necessarily this one. There was another censure that had come up, and it was basically dealing with the TAD that was going on, but we're not going to be focusing completely on that this evening. But I'm going to go ahead and pull up this video. And let me get over here where I can pull it up and you guys can kind of watch, and then we're going to get Mr. Miller on the phone. So here we go.
Local news, the Whitfield County Republican Party says they are censuring one of their state representatives. They are upset with Representative Casey Carpenter over what they say are a series of votes that do not align with their party's platform. Most recently, they opposed Carpenter's vote on a bill that would ban sanctuary cities after the murder of Laken Riley on the University of Georgia campus. This being the only Republican to vote against the bill, joining Democrats. The Whitfield County GOP says they will no longer support Carpenter, who is running unopposed in the upcoming May primary. However, they believe this censure sends a clear message despite concerns over intra-party fighting.
It's a concern, but it's always been that way, that there's the conservatives who are fighting for the thing, and then we have these rhinos who say, well, you know, who cause lots of trouble within the party, so that's why we're trying to get rid of them.
We did reach out to Carpenter and have not heard back. He, however, has posted on his campaign's Facebook that he has had disagreements with the party, but hopes that they can stand together.
All right. Okay. So there you have the video posted on WDEF.com. And with me this evening is Mr. Rod Miller. Good evening, Ron. How are you doing?
Good. Good to be with you.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Rod, for joining us tonight. So I just wanted to kind of delve into this just a little bit. So your county GOP was this weekend, the convention, correct?
Yes, it was Saturday the 23rd.
All right. And you are the second vice chair of the Whitfield County Republican Party, right?
That's right. That's right. Eddie Caldwell is our county chairman.
Gotcha. All right. Yes, Eddie, he's a good man.
He is.
I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about this. So I'm digging in. I'm doing a little research. You guys did two resolutions at your convention, and both of them were concerning Mr. Carpenter, correct?
Well, the convention passed 5 resolutions. Two of them were about Carpenter.
Gotcha. Okay.
There were other resolutions that passed.
All right. So you did one on the TAD, which is something that we can get into later or something like that. But the main one we're concerned with is this resolution. It says, resolution condemning State Representative Casey Carpenter's vote against the Georgia Criminal Alien Track and Report Act, HB 1105. So can you explain that to us?
Yeah, so Carpenter was the only Republican in the General Assembly to vote against this bill. And this was a bill that was essentially in reaction to the horrible murder of the 22-year-old nursing student at UGA that happened back in February.
Right.
And it's pretty modest bill. It just requires that city and county governments in Georgia cooperate with federal immigration authorities.
Mm-hmm.
And Casey Carpenter was the only member of the Republican caucus of the state legislature that voted no. And there was just a lot of, I think, moral outrage among people in the party about that vote.
Wow.
So I think that's what the motivation behind the resolution itself was, and it, passed unanimously by the convention.
Man, that's pretty wild that he's the only Republican. I remember this bill. This bill came out, like you said, right after Laken Riley, her tragic death in Athens. And so they had this bill, and they decided to go ahead and pass it. And he is the only Republican that voted against this bill.
And I believe the Senate did pass it, and I think it's on its way to the governor's desk. I'm not sure the current status, but
Gotcha.
It was just an indefensible vote, but part of a pattern with Carpenter that is very troubling to a lot of folks in a county that went for Donald Trump by approximately 70% of the vote in 2016 and 2020. So he's very out of touch on the issue. But this was really over the top.
Yes, yeah, it was. Now, can you elaborate on the bill again? I'm trying to pull it up here.
So it was House Bill 1105, and the main gist of it was that it mandated that city and county governments in Georgia cooperate with, DHS and ICE.
Yes.
So if they pull someone over, or law enforcement has contact with someone, and they determine that they're an illegal alien, they notify ICE and they detain the people.
Right.
Had the law been in place, the murder of Laken Riley, in all likelihood, wouldn't have happened, couldn't have happened. So
that's pretty wild that it's not even in place. I know that as a bail bondsman, we've had these kind of laws before where, if you were an illegal alien, you were detained, and then the ICE what they call the ICE bus would come like once a month, and they'd take people back, And so this law definitely wasn't, or that, is this a new law on the books, I guess?
I think that Athens is sort of a quasi sanctuary jurisdiction.
Yes,
and that was specifically, but there are counties in Georgia that do participate in the 287G program. I think Whitfield is among them, but it's kind of scattered. And so this law, I think, would mandate it everywhere statewide. That's my understanding.
So tell us a little bit about the 287G. Now, is that the mandate here?
So that's been a program that's been in place for a long time. I think going back through maybe the George W. Bush years, that allows local agencies like sheriff's departments to sign a contract with ICE and then have deputies be able to process people for immigration, check their immigration status. And my understanding is Whitfield County does participate in that, although it's unclear whether our Democrat Sheriff Scott Chitwood really enforces the program much.
Right. Understood. So that's probably what I'm talking about, the 287G. And yeah, I did forget that Clark County, basically Athens, was sort of a declared sanctuary city. So it's very interesting. I know you can't speculate, but has he made any comments about this? I know that he has commented on the TAD resolution, but I've yet to see any comments on him voting no against this bill. Or that you know of?
He's been this is less defensible, so he's not had much to say about this that I've seen.
Right.
But in the past, he has said that his district is, half Latino, and he's essentially pandering to what he thinks they think he should do. We, of course, would disagree with that. I mean, in the Whitfield County Republican Party, we've had a Hispanic outreach program for the last couple of years. It's been successful. Had a lot of contact with the Latino community. There's plenty of people in the Latino community in Dalton who are U.S. citizens, who are conservative people.
Absolutely.
Who would not agree with what happened to Laken Riley and the way that it went down. So I reject Casey Carpenter's assumption that all Latinos are lawless, open border advocates.
Sure, sure. I agree with your assessment. I've very close with a lot of Latino people that I've worked with on jobs over the years, and they're highly conservative, very family oriented people, and the vast majority of people kind of have the same thoughts and agreements, and absolutely. I mean, I know that firsthand. You know.
Yeah, we like to say in the Whitfield County Republican Party that when we interact with the Latino community in Dalton, we believe they're more conservative on immigration than the folks at the Chamber of Commerce.
Sure, and you see that a lot too, like in Cuba, like South Florida, all of these different places. I mean, let's cut the quid pro quo here, right? We know everybody understands that this is a problem that is blown extremely out of proportion as far as the thoughts and feelings. Right? We have people that come. We all want immigrants to come to this country. There's nobody saying that you cannot come to this country. We just simply want the laws to be enforced, and they need to come in legal and assimilate. That's as simple as it can be. You know.
And we need to know who's here.
Yes.
I'm old enough to have lived through 9/11. We
Yes.
need to know who's here, and we're all for legal immigration. That's part of what's built this country.
Absolutely.
But this complete invasion is unprecedented that's occurring right now.
Yes.
And I think it's insulting that Carpenter believes that most Latinos are in favor of it, because we just haven't found that. We've had Hispanics who are military veterans who've told us they're just sickened by Democrats and what
Sure.
they're doing to this country. So he's just wrong. The issue with Carpenter is he's really not a Republican by
Right.
any present definition of a Republican.
Mhm.
He's a complete rhino, and he really makes no bones about it.
No, you're right.
It's not just this issue; it's a lot of issues.
Sure. I actually met him back in January when we did some filming down there at the Capitol. And I kind of thought, he was very out of touch with his voter base to begin with. When talking about elections and paper ballots, he kind of acted like it was a moot point or a Democrat issue, and that there's several things that were brought up to him that he was virtually unaware about, and didn't seem like he cared too much about it. So, that's just my opinion, but.
Yeah, he's gloating at this point that nobody's running against him.
Yes,
and,
yes.
The issue is the last cycle we did have good candidates that ran against both him and Chuck Payne, but the problem is you're outspent. They get the third party money, and you just get completely swamped. So it's very hard to find people that are willing to go out on a limb and challenge an incumbent, even one with a terrible, terrible voting record like Casey Carpenter.
Yes.
Because you've got to have essentially big bucks to even have a faint shot at it. So he's gloating that no one's running against him. But if he keeps voting like this, if it's this bad, eventually he's going to get an opponent.
Absolutely.
So I would just respond to him that way.
Sure. I think you guys passing this resolution sends a very strong message.
And one other thing, this is the second straight year we've censured him. Last year, he's been a long-time supporter of giving in-state tuition to the DACA kids who are, as you know, the illegal aliens that Obama sort of quasi legalized outside of any constitutional process. He just decreed it. And so Carpenter has pushed that for years. It hasn't gone anywhere, thankfully. But we censured him for that last year. Right. If he keeps voting like this, we'll censure him again next year.
Absolutely.
It's just, he knows what he's doing. He knows full well what he's doing, and he's just arrogant.
It's what it certainly seems like, and I know that people have reached out for comment on through him, and he's not given much. He's given some on his pages, but it's certainly the perception here is just that, and hopefully that we can get some skin in the game and primary some of these people that continue to vote against the principles of the Republican Party, right? I mean, we've got to have some people stand up, and you said it perfectly. It's a money game. It's they've got all the money and you've got none. It's very, very hard to run a campaign against them. It's just extremely hard. So, well, man,
absolutely.
I appreciate your time, Mr. Miller. I don't think we actually know each other, but I look forward to meeting you in the future. And thanks for coming on and just filling us in on everything. And we really
Well,
appreciate the work you guys are doing over there.
I thank you for having me. And if I could just give a plug for the Whitfield County Republican Party,
Yes.
its website is whitfield.gop.
Okay.
And
Sounds
so if
good.
anybody wants information, we meet on the second Tuesday of every month at the headquarters over on Abutment Road in Dalton. It's behind Regions Bank.
Absolutely. If you don't
And
care
we'd
to,
love to have new people come. We'd love to have people join the party on the website. And, the stronger we get, then the more leverage we have on issues like this.
that's right. Power to the people. That's how you get in here and you change some of these things. Yes, sir. If you don't care, send me a link whenever we get off the phone. That way I can post it in the comments.
I'll do it.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. You have a good evening.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We certainly appreciate Mr. Miller spending some time with us here. So, as you heard, they censured their representative over two different things. The TAD bill, which you can go to, well, there's several places as you can see it, and this one he was the only Republican to vote against House Bill 1105. So, I find that very, very interesting. It's local, like you said. Join your GOP, get involved, become a member. You've got to fight this huge corporate money. A lot of these people are getting funded from these coalitions. And they don't care about us. They don't care about our voice, and we need to change that. We need to make them care about our voice. So we certainly appreciate that. And also, I'll try to post a link to the GOP from WDEF so you can see more of it. So, let's see. So we're going to move along, and I'm going to hit some news stuff real quick. But I guess before I start, I was trying to reach out to Debbie Dooley this evening. I want to go ahead and share this real quick because this kind of coincides with what we're talking about here. And let me see if I can find it. I may just have to read it to you real quick. But this is, as people know, we went down to the Capitol and did some filming and stuff like that. I posted it here on YouTube. I tried to keep it very unedited where everybody could see what it was. I didn't want anybody thinking that I was editing it. And of course, it's open. Anybody can edit it. But this was, I want to read this because this is from Debbie Dooley. Now, let me see if I can find her real quick. Y'all just have to bear with me. She is, let's see right here. This is Debbie Dooley from, I think she's the president of the Tea Party, I think. Let's see here. She's met Donald Trump. I'm trying to get this information pulled up for us here. President of America First Tea Party. Okay, I don't know her personally, but she sent out a message. Let me get back over here. And this is the message. It says, alert Georgia House leadership going after the grassroots. She is going to be on Emerald Robinson's show tomorrow to talk about it. So I think I had the video pulled up, and I can see if I do. That's not the one. I don't. But anyway, it says Raffensperger Republicans in the Georgia House are trying to force unpaid grassroots activists to register as lobbyists if they want to talk to their elected officials about legislation or policy. Speaker Ralston tried the same thing, and we killed such attempts. They gutted a very strong election integrity legislation, which was SB 358, that passed the Senate that would authorize the state election board to investigate Raffensperger. So they gutted this very good bill in order to say blank you to the grassroots, which she just spelled it F-U, and to protect Raffensperger. So House leadership gave the approval, let's see. Yes, House leadership gave the approval. It would have never been gutted and changed. So she gets some numbers here. I'm going to post this later, but I've been following this all evening. And I don't have it all pulled up, but apparently it's LaHood. They had some legislation that would basically allow them to be able to investigate Raffensperger, and they had this bill pulled up and everything. And then they kind of just struck through a few words and said basically they're not going to be able to investigate him, and that's up for grabs. And now they are going to try to make people like you and me that come to the Capitol register as a lobbyist in order to talk to our legislators. So this to me just smells of complete desperation and fear. They don't like being sweated, obviously. They don't like people coming in and questioning their policies and procedures and what the way that they're voting. They do not like these grassroots organizations that are grading them from voting. They don't like this stuff being out in the public. They definitely don't like activists like we do here by reporting on this. And, this is business as usual for these people. And it's anything but moving forward because we're watching everything and we are looking for accountability, just straight up and simple. So I plan to hopefully be able to talk to Mrs. Dooley sometime in the future. Maybe we can get her on so she can kind of fill us in great detail about this. But it's something that you need to know because they're currently trying to block you from coming in to the Capitol to question them on anything. They definitely don't like being filmed. It's just craziness every which way you look at it. They're trying to shut people down, which is what's so funny about this Bill 986, this AI bill, which we'll get to in a moment, right? Because I showed you at the very beginning a video that was completely artificially intelligent made. And my whole gripe about 986 that has been tabled, the best we know, is this bill specifically goes after, 90 days out of an election, 3 months out of an election, to where if you post some sort of meme or something that could be misconstrued as being real, dealing with artificial intelligence. And of course, they say that the bill targets only members in political parties and whatnot, or election campaigns. But we all know this is pretty draconian legislation when, I'm going to be showing you what AI is capable of doing and what it is doing. And the fact that we can't even break through to these people about our election integrity issues or have been taken seriously, but this is the AI hill that they want to die on, right? It's pretty messed up when you think about that. I mean, so we're going to protect the status quo of our elected officials and put people in prison when we have so much more in AI to worry about. This is the problem that I have with this bill, and they want to try to sugarcoat it and make it look like, oh, this is not what it is. But we all know how the government getting involved in anything. We all know how this turns out. So be on the lookout for that. I will probably go in depth more when I can get somebody on that we can discuss it with. So I'm going to cover some news articles real quick. So Congress, as we know this week, they unveiled the $1.2 trillion spending bill with border security boosts ahead of looming government shutdown. So I'm not going to go into this whole thing. This is from the New York Post. Man, this thing is huge. They passed it in the dead of the night. Well, they actually put it out with about 36 hours for people to be able to read, right? Which they're supposed to be 72 hours to avoid a government shutdown. It's a 1,012-page bill, which I downloaded, and I'm trying to go through it, and I'm like, there's no way. I couldn't even go through. I made it about 22 pages, and it was all military at the very beginning, which, of course, the military is going to be right up front there, and then you're going to have to really dig down to find all this stuff. But they passed a $6 billion, $467.5 billion minibus on March the 8th. Okay. And that funded Department of Veterans Affairs, Agriculture, Transportation, Commerce, Justice, and Housing and Urban Development, as well as Food and Drug Administration and military construction. So it says more than 100 Republicans, 83 in the House and 21 in the Senate, still voted against it, which was not nearly enough. So this is a 6-bill package, man. It's got a bunch of stuff in it. I mean, I still think it's crazy that we can pass these minibus and omnibus bills, and there's so much pork going on here, as you all have heard. It says House Speaker Mike Johnson pledged to his conference he would allow at least 72 hours before putting any bill up for a vote, but Johnson told Fox News on Wednesday the rule was not sacred. So it's craziness. Anyway. There's a whole bunch of stuff. This is a quote right here. A massive spending bill drafted in secrecy and dropped on us in the middle of the night is being rushed to the House floor for a vote with less than 36 hours to review. The Freedom Caucus, led by Representative Bob Good posted on X. So there's some decent stuff in this bill. There's a lot of crap in this bill, though, a whole lot of crap. And of course, if you go through, it shows how they've supposedly, we've cut out less and less and less. I mean, $1.2 trillion in spending. God, I can't even fathom it. I mean, I understand we have to fund things, but with this thing, as bad a shape as everything is in, it's kind of crazy to think about that. So, there's one more article here, which this breaks down the entire bill, but it leaves out all the really juicy stuff, right? It just goes through. This is CNN. What's in the government funding package? Of course, they're going to tell you what's in it without telling you all the other stuff, right? Homeland security, defense, state. It's got all kinds of stuff. Education. I urge people to go through and look at this to see what all's in this bill. And of course, then you have to go down to the other news sites to kind of to see what else is in this bill, right? Like the one that that Biden is going to fight where you can't fly an LGBTQ flag in embassies and all this. I mean, it's just crazy stuff, you know. Several millions of dollars for tuition for Egypt, and of course this funds all kinds of border security for other countries, and it doesn't have hardly anything in there for America, right? Because we don't need to fund our own border. We just need to flood our borders and flood our country, but we're going to send money overseas to bolster everybody else's border up. There's also some money in there for Ukraine. There's money in there for Israel. There's money in there for Taiwan. All of these things, yet we are going through the ringer here, which is kind of crazy. So, let me see here. Before we go into the boat, now we'll go on ahead and go to the boat now. So I'll just pause here because here's what we know. Like, so here's the latest on the Maryland Bridge. Investigators probe dirty fuel in Baltimore container ship disaster amid mid-Atlantic supply chain crisis. So this is a pretty crazy tragedy here. I'm not going to play the video because I hear people are getting they're getting banned for playing it. It says the vessel went dead, no steering, power, no electronics. I did want to look at this map here. This is kind of a crazy map to look at. Let's see if I can pull it up. So apparently over here is where it left Baltimore, left the port of Baltimore. The Francis Scott Key Bridge opened in 1977. So you just kind of see, I guess this is where it starts getting into the dangerous territory. And the power blinked at least twice before veering off on course and going straight into one of the main bridge columns that just completely dilapidated the bridge. So our thoughts and our prayers go out to everyone involved. It's crazy. So I'm not speculating here. First off, the reason I want to bring this up is because we're to the point now where everything that happens like this, it's total knee-jerk reaction, right? It goes 90-0 on the most extreme sides, right? Was this intentional? Was it not intentional? Was it an accident? Was it not an accident, right? So I'm not going to speculate too much because people that I listen to, a lot of them are very speculative and their hypotheses on the situation. One thing is we don't know yet. This just happened, and we're getting more and more reports coming out that it happened, and so it's kind of a knee-jerk thing. So we all have to kind of take this in stride, right? Because we don't really know what happened. But Occam's razor suggests that the path of least resistance here amid growing concerns of cybersecurity and all of these things that could possibly potentially go wrong versus the perfect storm of a ship going out at bay and turning off and just veering in. Who knows, right? So we don't know enough about it at this time, but I mean, certainly I found it a little odd that immediately when I first even heard about the bridge collapse, I went straight to my news sources. Everything that they reporting from the very get-go was that this has already been ruled out as a terrorist attack, has already been ruled out as something that was intentional. And I found that quite interesting because they're not even letting the smoke clear yet to even determine this. And another thing that I find a little wild about this is the Biden administration come out, I believe it was today, and said they were going to foot the bill for this. Like, or the federal government's going to foot the bill for this. Don't you worry about it. It's just weird anomalies that are coming out about this to kind of make you think. Now, obviously, they're trying to gaslight people in the first place. So we tend to question everything, especially on this channel. But I just find it odd that so much of this stuff is right there in your face. Like this is not. It's not what happened. It's not this. It's not this. It was just a natural disaster. It happened. I'm kind of like, y'all need to let the dust settle a little bit before we know for certain. But we're finding out a lot of that through the fog of war anyway. The same thing with the tragedy of the shooters that happened in the Moscow theater, right? Immediately it kind of came out as being blamed on such group, this and that and the other, without investigation. It's just kind of crazy to think about that. It gives me the 9/11 vibes, but I'm not going to sit here and speculate and say it was anything other than what it is, because like the latest reports are coming out saying it was dirty, ended up being dirty fuel. Who knows? I don't know. There was a Singaporean ship, but I do know one thing, regardless whether you think that this was done on purpose or whether it was a natural disaster, it took out a main thoroughfare port and Maryland, and obviously we're going to all be feeling the effects of that. And if it wasn't strategic, then wow, I mean, what a coincidence. That's all I'm saying about that. So we're going to keep our eyes on that, because obviously we're going to be told 15 different things. I go back last year to the train wreck in what is it, Ohio, East Palestine, Ohio, and how much crap we had to endure through that. But already here we're getting way more information than we've got on most anything in a 24-48 hour period. So it's pretty wild. If you haven't watched the video, you can go here to Zero Hedge. They've got the video on it, but it's just wild. I can't believe that. It's crazy to watch the video unfold, and what a tragedy. And Francis Scott Key Bridge, and it's also the only bridge, I believe, that you were allowed to bring hazmat materials over. So there's just it's just so much to unpack here. So I guess we're just going to keep watching this, seeing how it unfolds, because who in the heck knows, right? We don't know, but there's certainly a lot of anomalies in this story. So this is something that I wanted to cover that's coming back into the headlines. This was from the Telegraph on the 24th. It says, Britain risks losing power to control future lockdowns at the WHO. I'm going to read a little bit of this because we covered this about probably a year ago, maybe last April. Britain risks signing away its powers over pandemic policy to unelected World Health Organization officials, MPs have warned. It is feared that a new pandemic treaty, which is currently being drawn up by the UN agency, could bounce the UK into locking down society faster during a future global health crisis. Critics warn that member states could be pressured into following the agency's instructions when responding to pandemics under the treaty, including by introducing vaccine passports, border closures, and quarantine measures. The reason that I wanted to go ahead and cover that this evening is because we covered this about a year ago. This is being pushed out. It's been pushed out at least a year or two down the pipeline here. But I want you to remember what it says. It says, including by introducing vaccine passports, border closures, and quarantine measures. There's a lot to unpack here. And they mentioned data centers. And we've been talking a lot about data centers, right? The Georgia Data Analytical Center that's connected to several states. This pandemic treaty by the WHO is being it's been all over the place, and it's very rarely reported on, which is why it caught my eye when I saw this story, because part of this global New World Order phase is where you're going to put your emergency powers for lockdowns and stuff into the World Health Organization. It'll kind of take the governments out of the way, and they will be the unelected officials that will be able to tell your country whether you need to be on lockdown or not. So I want you to understand and be aware that these kinds of things are going on, and they're being talked about behind closed doors in the UK and all the Europe and several countries, in Australia, New Zealand, America, Canada. they're all going to be looking and investing in this treaty. Now, there's been some legislation that's already been signed on this, and I meant a year ago to make a special report about all this, but here it is in the news that you can see that these are the kinds of things, this is the direction that they're taking pandemics and with these treaties where they're putting it in the hands of the World Health Organization. It's not hyperbole, it's real, and this is what they're looking at. And like I said, the vaccine passports, border closure, quarantine measures. So they're going to be in charge of a lot of this stuff. So you got to understand like where we're being pushed as a society, right? Where we're being pushed and gaslit and controlled in the future of whatever comes at us. So be very aware of that. Let's see here. I was looking for something here. I'm probably come back from that. This is a good little video. I'm going to go ahead and play this video real quick because we're just going to be doing news primarily for the remainder of this. But check this out. We'll play a little bit of it.
Farmland, certainly in your state, from CCP influence. Tell us what you've seen and what kind of behavior we should expect from the CCP should they own farmland in America.
Well, what I hope the American people realize is that the country that controls our food supply, they control us. And so it's incredibly important that we pay attention to what's been happening for decades. This is my 30th year of working on ag policy, food policy in the United States of America. And over those years, I've watched the CCP come in and buy up our fertilizer companies, our chemical companies. They've stolen our genetics. They've come in and bought up our processing systems. In fact, we've had programs where we've given CCP members and Chinese citizens citizenship in exchange for investment into our processing systems. And now they have dramatically increased the amount of purchases of ag land in the United States. That completes their control of our food supply chain, which means that the country that feeds us, they will control us, and it's a national security issue. We need to care who our neighbors are, and not just because of how we feed ourselves, but also because a lot of times that ag land is right next to our national security interests. It's right next to our air bases, next to our military installations where our platforms are, where they spy and steal information from us.
Okay. So I wanted to play a little bit of that for everybody because we all know that we're having some issues in some of our counties where we've reported on the Christian Zhang, these rehab centers that have been going through county by county by county. There's hundreds and hundreds of acres of agricultural land that's been bought with moratoriums on it. You can go back to previous shows and kind of see where we covered that. We've got to keep our eye on this stuff because it was one key takeaway there that goes along with the bridge and it goes along with what we're talking about with the World Health Organization treaty. You know, it doesn't take anybody a lot of time to look back in history when you talk about the Cultural Revolution, Stalin, Nazi Germany, all of these dictators of power that were power hungry, right? And there's two of the biggest ways to control people, right? We know this. You take away the ability to arm and defend yourself, and you take away or control the food supply. So you have to understand that all of this stuff has a higher impact on our society as we go through. This is not gaslighting. This is being knowledgeable and aware that our resources are being kind of bought out and sold to, communist interests, right? The Chinese party, the CCP. Now, if anybody knows anything about China, China always, whatever businesses are allotted to go there, they own the main percentage of the business. They own all the technology and all the processes that you work there, and now they're coming and buying up all of our farmland and buying our companies, and so it's something that you need to keep on your radar as you go through and start tying all this stuff together. What kind of society is being built all around us, right? I mean, you control the food supply, you control people, you make them desperate, you do things. So it's something that everybody needs to keep an eye on here is the fact that we have this going on. We have legislation that is coming out in Georgia, in our state, right, that is trying to supposedly fight against all these things. But if you kind of look at the fine print, you'll see that it's, you have to keep your eye on these things. They're so crafty at how they can word these things. And they tout it like it's a good bill and it's a straightforward bill. But when you start reading it, it's like, man, this is not good, But I wanted everybody to see that because I mean, this is the world we're living in now. We're selling all of our agricultural and farmland away. We're developing everything all around us. We're taking away the farmland. We're taking away natural food, and we're eating nothing but processed crap all the time, And I'm just as guilty as anybody else. But you need to understand where this is coming from. So, okay, now let's go into let's see here. I got so many good ones tonight. So we're going to go into tinfoil hat territory in a minute, but let's go ahead and cover this one real quick. So this is not tinfoil hat. This is real. This is crazy to me. This is from the National File, and it's all over the place. Obama appointed a judge. Ruling says illegal aliens can carry firearms. An Obama-appointed federal judge recently authored what could be a landmark ruling in the continued fight to secure America's border and America's streets from the tens of millions of illegal aliens being streamlined into this country, as she ruled that illegal aliens have the constitutional right to possess and carry firearms. That's pretty crazy. This is the argument. The argument made by Carvajal Flores lawyers was based on a 2022 Supreme Court rule that said that gun control laws must be consistent with the nation's historical tradition of firearm regulation, which allowed them to convince Judge Coleman that because the Constitution does not specifically bar illegal aliens from owning or carrying firearms, and because historically the United States hasn't had the need to stop millions of illegal aliens from arming themselves, now they can't be stopped. Now this is in Illinois, I believe. Also in California. So let's just dive into this for just a second. This is kind of crazy. So you're telling me the Democrat Party wants to get rid of guns. They want to take all of your weapons away from you. They want to get rid of the Second Amendment, but yet they're going to rule that, say, somebody who is not a legal citizen under the Constitution of the United States of America can own guns, right? So how does that work? Are you trying to tell me that I have to go and buy a gun, I have to register for the gun, I have to show all my ID and go through a background check and do all these things, but you're going to allow an illegal alien to walk up with what? I mean, a warrant? Because is that the only paperwork that they'll have? I mean, a green card? What does this even mean? And they will be able to buy firearms. Now, this is just kind of some of the craziness that we are dealing with in this society right now. That is a complete head scratcher, and you're just like, what is going on here? This is upside down clown world. How can this be, right? How can we as a society even be coming up with these kinds of rulings, right? Which just kind of shows you how our justice system has become a joke. It's becoming a joke in this country that they could rule on something like this. A person who's a felon has to spend thousands and thousands of dollars and go through the entire law system to get their rights back. Yet we are going to allow these people that are here illegally to purchase firearms? I don't understand. But like I said, you have to understand the society that they are creating. All of these things that I'm pointing out are key indicators of the society that they're trying to create and manipulate. Okay? Oh, yeah, I'll do that too, bro. I haven't even begun on that yet, but you see what I'm saying? All of this stuff, and I'm glad you brought that up so I don't forget it. All of this stuff is painting this pictures, weaving this basket together of where do you think our future is going to go through this? Well, I mean, we're down to legislators in our own state that are actively voting against bills that would secure people and secure areas and secure places, all because of some grift. I mean, it all goes down even to the state level. We've got to get serious about what we're doing here. This is crazy to think about. It's crazy to think about that they're going to allow non-citizens to become police officers, and that we even had a bill that was we're going to let nationals become police officers and things in the state. I mean, it's just like everywhere you turn around, you're seeing some kind of crazy stuff that's going around. Like, why can't we fix our police system in a completely different way? Why do we have to go that route? Why aren't we giving out raises and bolstering up our police forces and our law enforcement? But no, we're just going to let non-citizens have the ability to do this. It's crazy. I mean, there's no assimilation here. What in the world are we looking at when we're trying to tell the American people we don't want you to have guns, but we're going to let illegal aliens have guns? That's just so beyond me. I just don't understand it. So you need to be aware. You need to be aware of what is going on around you, because this stuff is crazy. So let's see here. Let me go back a little bit. So while we're on immigration, I thought this was kind of crazy. This was from yesterday, New York Post. New York City begins handing out prepaid debit cards to migrants in controversial programs. So the Adams administration launched this program to give prepaid debit cards to New York City migrants this week, 2 months after inking a controversial no-bid $53 million contract for the deal. Wonder who's paying for that. I'm sure it's not New York City. So, staffers with the New Jersey company Mobility Capital Finance handed out 8 preloaded MasterCards at the Roosevelt Hotel on Monday as part of its pilot program that will expand to 115 cards by next week, according to a City Hall spokesman. The one-year deal, the contract was inked without a typical bidding process, and it says the program could be a boon for the tech startup, whoever owns that, giving it the potential to net $1.8 million by taking a cut of funds loaded onto each MasterCard. Wow. Follow the money, right? Oh my God, it's crazy. Now, we all have heard about them giving out cell phones and free airline tickets. We all know this is going on. This is called replacement migration. It's very simple to understand. There's a 2-minute video that shows you where we're headed. Where are we headed as a society? So you bring illegal immigrants in, you give them weapons, you give them food, you give them clothing, you give them housing, and you give them money, right? Take away the monetary work, all these things, you give them all this money, and they become dependent on who? Oh, the Democrat Party. So then you use those people to recount the census, and then you gain more power and control, so much to the point where you can literally have control over everything, right? It's really, really crazy what we're seeing, what's going on in our country. I've just never seen anything like it before, and it is kind of alarming. I don't know how else to put it. How on earth can we survive all of these things happening? I don't know. I want somebody to tell me. So let me. Here's another one. We're in tinfoil hat territory. So I brought this one up because this seems to be the second state that is mulling this, and then this is from the Washington Post. It says GOP lawmakers are fueling a conspiracy theory without mentioning chemtrails. So let's look at this real quick, all right? Because Massachusetts has already done this, and this is in Tennessee. Republican state lawmakers are going after a new threat they say could cause harm to the environment and playing into a baseless claim at the same time. Now listen to this. We're going to break this down. In a Tennessee bill passed by the state Senate last week, lawmakers targeted geoengineering, an experimental and controversial, now listen to this. This is their words, not mine. Practice not yet in use that could help cool the planet amid climate change. So they're telling you this is a conspiracy theory, that you're crazy. But they're also telling you that this is something that's on the books, that they're saying, well, it's not yet put in use, right? But we're experimenting with geoengineering, right? Cloud seeding, whatever you want to call it, HARP. So they try to tell you, and I did this experiment in ChatGPT after just some dialogue about, oh, this is craziness, talking about chemtrails and all this. I talked to ChatGPT for probably an hour, and I've got screenshots of everything we discussed, and basically tell me without telling me that there's a ton of geoengineering going on and that they've been studying it for quite some time and they're just not admitting it. But here you have 2 states here that are working on bills so they can't spray in their skies. I mean, I'm not crazy. I'm just reporting the news to you. This is what's out in the news, man. It says, now the confusion between solar geoengineering and chemtrails threatens to muddy the waters around nascent geoengineering research, chilling potential studies, scientists say. Well, what does that even mean? Around nascent geoengineering research. So they're not even in practice yet. Scientists say that we're going to muddy the water with the word chemtrails, but they're talking about nascent geoengineering research. I mean, Sure, people are going to spread all kinds of theories about geoengineering when we don't know what kind of geoengineering is out there, yet the scientists know what kind of geoengineering is out there. You know? Let's see. Also, last week, Pennsylvania State Senator Doug Mastriano has posted on social media about the chemtrails accusation, announced in a memo his intention to propose legislation to mirror the Tennessee bill. So that's three. That's three states. In my view, the basic idea is morphed. I mean, so they're telling you that, of course, this is going to go down. And what is chemtrails? What do chemtrails have to do with geoengineering? So they're going to try to paint this narrative. But my point to everybody out there is very simple. Okay? And I read it for you. One more time for the people in the back. Okay? You think we're all crazy, right? It says right here. It says lawmakers targeted geoengineering, an experimental and controversial practice not yet in use that could help cool the planet amid climate change. I mean, what else do you need? Not yet in use would lead the assumption that they're going to use it. Do you understand? They're going to use it. They're planning on using it. And some of these states are getting ahead of the curve and saying, we don't want this. I mean, do we have to go back and watch Bill Gates talk about cloud seeding to cool the planets and all? I mean, this stuff is real, okay? I mean, we know the extent of it? Are there conspiracy theories? Absolutely, they're conspiracy theories. But when you have a national news article that's talking about it, but yet they're trying to create the narrative that it's still crazy. It's crazy to talk about these bills because geoengineering hasn't happened yet. It's not in use yet. But they tell you without telling you. It's like, when are you going to wake up, people? What kind of world are they painting for us? Okay? Geoengineering is real. I mean, they're spending multi billions of dollars into the research and development. There's tons of stories all over the place. All right? Leads me to my next conspiracy theory, right? Here we go. Space lasers. Well, that's not the one, but I'm going to go to this next one right here. Where's it at? This is from the National File. See Ted Lieu and Elise Stefanik's plot to create a direct energy laser program to be shared between the U.S. and Israel. I'm not making these stories up. These stories are in the news, and then I go back and look and I research them, and here they are. All right? Now this, let's see. Listen to what they say. Direct energy weapons, including lasers, are designed to use powerful energy to attack opponents, intercept missiles, and carry out other offensive and defensive acts of modern war. Okay, how many times have they been used? It's a secretive business for the military industrial complex, and scrutiny will only increase the world experiences. So a lot of people talking about, oh, crazy, he's talking about DEWs, direct energy weapons, huh? Well, right here. In March 2019, Lieu and Stefanik. Now, remember 2019, when COVID started, everything shut down, right? Introduced H.R. 1795, the United States-Israel Directed Energy Cooperation Act. They had previously introduced it in September 2018. Okay? Everybody seeing this? The bill was referred to the House Armed Services and Foreign Affairs Committee, where it's never progressed. The bill states that Mr. Ted Lieu of California introduced the following bill. A bill to authorize the Secretary of Defense, upon request of the Ministry of Defense of Israel, and with the concurrence of the Secretary of State, to carry out research, development, test, and evaluation activities on a joint basis with Israel to establish directed energy capabilities that address threats to the United States, deployed forces, or Israel, and for other purposes. And down here, as you can see, this is the bill. Okay? I'm not saying the bill's law. I'm telling you that this stuff is being talked about. And if we bring it up, if we talk about it, if we talk about Hawaii or other places or the things or other anomalies or the videos of your lion eyes or the green lasers coming down from the skies and the satellites and all this, if you say direct energy weapon, you're a conspiracy theorist. Yet here we are, with legislation dating all the way back from 2018, 2019, proposing these very things. And this was probably dug up on the fact of people digging around with the Israel-Palestine war, the fog of war. But it's there. And you need to know about it. Because people think you're crazy when you talk about chemtrails, when you talk about geoengineering. People think you're crazy when you talk about direct energy weapons. It's all right here, folks. It's spelled out right in front of us. And this is mainstream news articles for the most part. They're around. We could pull up hundreds of these things. What kind of world are we going to be living in? You know, where is all this stuff going, you see? So I'm not saying that you have to go bat crazy and go down every rabbit hole, but understand that the reality is whether or not they're spraying our skies with chemicals as we speak, there's a program that's being studied to see if they need to. You understand? Whether or not that whatever happened in Lahaina or anywhere else in this country or state or around the world, that these direct energy weapons are being studied. Okay? They're being studied and used for implementation. I mean, it's that simple. Here is yet another one that we need to discuss. And let me pull this up. Now, you know, this isn't exactly a mainstream news article, but I've kind of cross-referenced it here, but it's something you need to know. This is from Defense One. Army moles introducing robot platoon into armored brigades. Now, coincide this with the drone strike that happened out in broad daylight, where we saw, well, if you see the videos of the I think it's just a few guys walking in the middle of rubble or down the street, and they get attacked by a drone or killed by a drone. The platoons would be able to use a variety of drones and swap out components as needed for missions. This is from Huntsville, Alabama. The Army may introduce a drone and robotics platoon into its armored brigade combat teams, an Army leader announced Tuesday at the AUSA Global Force Conference. Global Force Conference, right? A proposal to stand up the new type of platoon has been sent to the Combined Arms Center at Fort Leavenworth for eventual inclusion in an update to the service force design, said Brigadier General Jeffrey Norman. These force designs are working their way through the system now. The platoons would be known as robotic and autonomous systems. So here we are, Mr. Skynet. I'm crazy for reporting on this, but guess what? That's the future of your military. Completely autonomous and robotic platoons that will be going out on the battlefield. So, like I said, you don't think AI and all these things are a big threat or an issue or what's going on? Guess what? I mean, the plans of the future look really, really wild and crazy. All right. And that's what's going on. You can believe what you want to believe. You can read what you want to read. But there it is, plain and simple for you. You know, this stuff is not crazy. You know, it might be too scary. Maybe you don't want to admit it. But, I mean, here it is. Where do you think some of these ideas come from in the beginning? And believe me, the conspiracy theorists are winning. There's no doubt about that. So I'm going to clear out here a little bit because I won't stay on much longer here. But a couple of things I wanted to bring up. Let's go ahead and do it's 102. So thank you, Lisa, for hanging out. I don't know who all is here, but I see a lot of viewers, and I appreciate you hanging out with me. XXL, dude, it's good to hear from you, brother. Says, don't forget about the Diddy bus. I'm calling him P. Diddle now. So P Daddy, Puff Daddy, whatever you want to call him, Sean Puffy Combs is in the news, right? All this stuff's tied together, man. $30 million lawsuit that he settled out of court. Then next thing you know, they're raiding his estates for child trafficking. All of these things that, well, we really probably can't talk about here, right? We can't show the bridge. But if you look on it's all over the place. There, and I watched a really bad one today with Howard Stern, what's that guy's name? Lord have mercy. That singer. I can't remember his name. But anyway, he was talking about being 14 years old and going to the Diddy place for like an hour. Excuse me, not an hour, a year. And seeing things that he couldn't unsee and not understanding them. And there's just a bunch of stuff to unpack there. And Cuba Gooding Jr. is now in the take. And then everybody now is wondering, where's Jay-Z and all this, right? So you're seeing sort of an awakening, right? Because of the Hollywood and the music industry and the Tavistock Institute and Jeffrey Epstein, all of these things that are kind of combining together now and imploding on themselves when you see the complete just degradation of everything that we've come to know and love in the entertainment industry and what it's really all about. You know, there's a documentary, I believe it's out now about Nickelodeon called Quiet on Set, which I haven't watched yet. really don't want to watch, but it's probably a vital thing to watch. But of course, we're seeing the dismantlement of all this going on. 50 Cent is throwing shade. There's a lot of things going on that P. Diddle is involved in, and Lord knows how much we're actually going to find out about it. You know, I refer back to January when they said they were going to release the Epstein client list. We still haven't seen that yet. It just kind of went away into the shadows, you know. So who knows? But obviously we know these people are very nasty, nasty people involved in nasty, nasty things. And when you have that much power and money and you feel like you're God, I guess you can do whatever the hell that you want to do. But I don't feel sorry for any of these people. This is the systematic Hollywood trope. Is, you know, you blackmail everybody and you put the cameras up and you've got them in your pockets and they're doing what you want to do, and then you get to do your debauchery, which is it's pretty graphic on some of the things that, according to the testimony from the depositions of the people, the women, I guess, and the men that were putting this in, they're very graphic about the kind of things and ways that he liked to do things and stuff. And I mean, it's just nasty, nasty stuff. But yeah, P. Diddle is what his new name to me is. So it's pretty wild stuff, and I'm sure we're going to be seeing a lot more of that. So XXL Dude says the coup happened in 2020. Now we are witnessing the invasion. Maybe the IS was sold out to China by the powers that be. China has their social credit system, and they don't just let people leave. I agree with that. 100%. There's so much to unpack there. There's a whole I think the Epoch Times has the information out that you can see about how the Chinese, whatever you want to call them, nationals, immigrants coming through the border, they get put in a completely separate facility, right? And treated differently. There's a lot to unpack there about the different kinds of people that are coming through the border, because this is not all just a southern Mexico or, you know, it is an invasion. It's a systematic invasion of replacement migration, and it's just, that's the truth. That's where it's at. That's where it's going. I mean, my God, all of these things connect. Whether you want to call the bridge collapse a conspiracy theory or not, this is going to be a major artery that's completely shut down. Whether you want to think that it's crazy to think about, well, you know, whoever buys land. Well, if a communist country is buying up all of your agriculture, your farmland that you feed your people, what do you think that's going to end up? Especially when we're in the process of getting into a proxy war with these people over territory that's not even sovereign. Okay? Where do you think this is going to end up, man? This is the society that's being painted here, allowing illegal aliens to buy guns and be protected under the Constitution. This is not a pretty picture. All right, and you need to be aware of these things. You need to be aware that geoengineering scientists are out there and that they are studying the effects and trying to cool the planet. You need to understand all of these things, because that's the world that we're going into right now. Okay? It's not gaslighting. It's, hey, get prepared, you know, especially where we live. John Milliken, very good to see you. He says they play with the words to conceal the truth. You're absolutely right. That's exactly my point. You read an article, and they skirt around the truth, and it becomes obvious. Especially if if you're just asleep at the wheel and you're just reading this, you'd skim right over it. But once you cross the veil, you can't unsee it. And this is what kills me about some people that, you know, want to just throw everything off. And this, I'm ranting here, but the bridge collapse. You have to be very careful, because don't think for a second they're not going to market on your mental capacity. They're not going to market on your emotions and make everything look like a conspiracy theory, because it makes them money. It makes them clicks. They want to gaslight people. All right. And I'm not going to say that this was a deliberate attack or a cyber attack until we have more information. It's now they're coming out with the information before they even tell you, hey, before we tell you about this bridge collapse, let me just tell you that this was not an intentional attack. This was not cybersecurity or cyber attack. And then they tell you about it. You see what I'm saying? Now the information is pulled front forward. They want you to go ahead and get it out of your head now. And it's almost like a mental flip that they want people to say, oh my God, we don't know. But they're going to use everything to their advantage. Never let a tragedy go to waste. They're going to try to exploit everything they can to screw us up. They do not want us knowing the truth. They never have. Okay? They play with words to conceal the truth. If you say spraying the skies with metal particles, they change to deflect by saying it's not yet being done to cool the earth, even though the question. 100%. That is exactly my point here. And, you're never going to get people to wake up and believe everything. And, I always say question everything, right? But, yeah, that's exactly what they do. It wasn't even about cooling. Sure, they're not going to tell you what it's about in the first place. I mean, you can go back to watch some videos of the 50s and the 60s where they were using planes and they were using all kinds of ways to spray the people to get rid of, the parasite, I believe, some kind of metallic spray. There's a video out that you can see it, but people don't believe that this has already happened. You go back to 2019, 2020, what were they doing in China? They were spraying the entire freaking cities with these huge trucks and people with these huge sprayers and dumping stuff all over the place so that they could kill the virus. Don't think for a second they don't have the capabilities to do this. And think about yourself. If you had the capability to do it, would you not do it? You see my point? So anyway, maybe people are waking up. Fingers crossed that they're waking up. I just want people to be prepared. That's all. You question everything and be prepared, because so many times we get lost down here in the muck. And, and it's very important to focus on our local issues and to continue to fight and continue to do these things. But you need to prepare like a Boy Scout, man. Get prepared in ways that you can be self-sustaining, in ways that you can be independent from the system, because the system wants to eat you alive, man. The system is changing, and we're all going through these changes. You just need to be ready for it, is all. So anyway, these are some stories that I've been sitting on for a while and wanted you to be aware of. And while I just fly solo here tonight, we will have Nick Ware here Friday evening. We'll continue with our Candidate Mondays, and we'll be adding more people. So I appreciate everybody hanging out with me tonight. It's been fun. Don't look at all this stuff as doom and gloom. Just look at it as reality. It is a reality, and it's happening. And we didn't even cover half of it, So everybody out there, just be prepared and love each other and hang in there and figure out what we can do to move forward together as we go into a tumultuous presidential election, right? We didn't even cover Trump tonight. I'm sure everybody knows out there now that they were able to lower the bond, and he's got Truth Social on the market, and he's back in action. So expect people to lose their freaking minds, because every single thing is backfiring on those people. So XXL, the nation's guard, the National Guard is being deployed to the eclipse viewing area. Yeah, I didn't even cover that this evening. There's so much speculation on this National Guard thing. I almost think it's yet another gaslight. Who on earth knows? It's going to be the same thing, man. They're going to be throwing things at us left and right, and this eclipse thing has gotten way blown out of proportion. And then they're talking about scalpers now going to charge $100 a day for parking, and I mean, it's going to be crazy. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not judging people, but I don't think I'd want to be caught dead in any of these places, because Lord knows, and what this is all about. I've heard so many theories about this eclipse. And a buddy of mine mentioned this the other day. I think it was back in 2017 when we had that eclipse that everybody in this area, right, where you could go up, I think, to the Mayfield Dairy and see it. I actually went outside, and you always hear, well, this will be the last eclipse for such and such amount of time. You got to see this. And here we are with this huge eclipse going through, Indiana, Ohio, wherever it's going. And it's like every time they say this, so this will be the only one in 150 years, but then next week there's another one. I don't know. But all I do know is that, man, stay strapped, situational awareness, because things are getting ugly out there. There's a whole bunch of Atlanta stuff I could have covered tonight, and I just didn't have time. But, man, y'all just be good out there. Thanks for everybody participating. I will see you guys next Wednesday, and just appreciate everybody.